Okay, good evening, everybody. I'm Suzanne Shirley and Senior Ruby Ambassador with Plexus. We are doing the 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth tonight, and this is it by John Maxwell. We are on chapter 11 this evening. We're going to talk about the law of trade-offs, which is basically the idea is that you have to give some stuff up to grow up. And yes, that means sacrifice in a lot of ways. It's not the law of sacrifice that you could necessarily compare to the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. In the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership, it's the law of sacrifice. But this is not necessarily the same thing, because this book focuses on personal growth. And if you are wanting to grow in your personal life, you have to be willing to trade off some things. And trade-off is a little bit different. It includes sacrifice, but it's a little bit different than what you could just write off as sheer sacrifice. Definitely includes it. But basically, it's the idea is that you are going to have to give some stuff up that you're doing in your life in order to move in the direction to reach your full potential. And that doesn't necessarily mean your television time, your time with your family, staying up extra hours. That's more of the law of sacrifice, okay? We're going to talk more, it's more in general terms, the law of trade-off, okay? So let's talk about the different types of trade-offs. Still getting over my sinus thing, so still have a cough, still taking some meds for that. It is a long time getting over this. This is a bad one, guys. It was a bad one. So, okay, so here we go. People will cling to an unsatisfactory way of life rather than change in order to get something better for fear of getting something worse. They're so afraid of getting something worse that they don't exchange their comfort for something to move for something better. They're just afraid of getting something worse. And so they won't give up where they're at. They won't move away from where they're at. So what will it take for you to get to the next level? How about letting go of some things that you love and you value the most? Maybe a job that you enjoy, a good salary, a home, a community that you become a part of, a level of security. Are you willing to give up those things for a chance to do something that will take you closer to your potential? And you have to ask yourself that. Didn't want you to have to listen to me hack up and cough. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's not really fun. But if I'm going to be on this and if I'm going to talk to you guys every week, then I'm going to have to cough every now and then. So, okay. A businessman, he gives the example of a businessman who he talked to about was trying to reach his potential. And at some point, he was at this company we know called Pillsbury, right? And he started off as a manager, then he promoted to a group director, then the senior director of management, corporate vice president of systems, etc. And he thought that he had really arrived when he had gotten to corporate vice president. You know, that's almost to the top, but it's not nearly the top. So he was vice president, beautiful office, view of the 36th floor, thought he had achieved the pinnacle of his dream, gone much farther than his humble beginnings, but it wasn't enough. It was not enough. And so he decided that he was going to have to give up in order to go up. So do you see how, if you've studied the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership, this is different than the law of sacrifice? Because it's not like he decided to do something more by giving up some time here and there, giving up some of his favorite hobbies. That's not what we're talking about. He made a choice, a very impactful choice to do something that was going to pivotally or crucially change his life, the direction of his life. It might turn out to end up very badly, but it had the potential to take him to the pinnacle and the height of his full potential of any career that he would want to have, because he knew that he could never be the president of Pillsbury. He was the vice president. So if he stayed on his current track, he would never become the president. So what did he do? The solution was to go work at a subsidiary company of Pillsbury, which is Burger King. And he was given the opportunity to do that. So he would have to do something that was not so fun. And he lost all of his stock options, dropped his salary, needed to learn a brand new business from the ground up. You understand what that's a massive trade-off. That is a trade-off. That's not the law of sacrifice at work here. In other words, it would turn his whole life upside down. But that's what the law of trade-offs is. It turns your whole life upside down. If you want to grow up into your potential, you've got to be willing to give up some things that you value. Not just your TV time and a few extra time, hours with your spouse or whatever. It's some really big trade-offs. So at Burger King, what did he do? He moved up from assistant manager to store manager to regional manager to vice president in Philadelphia. And it was not an easy road. He had a whole lot of things to do. He had so many challenges, lots and lots of difficult people that he had to deal with who did not want to see him succeed, but he persevered through. And what happened? Did he achieve his dream? Absolutely, he did. 4 years after transitioning from Pillsbury corporate to Burger King, he was invited to take over the failing company that Pillsbury had acquired, which was Godfather's Pizza. And if you know him, you know who took over Godfather's Pizza and turned that company around and made it into the giant that it became. You know that that's Mr. Herman Cain, who also ran for president at one point. So this is the law of trade-offs, that people have to give some stuff up, some really big, comfortable things, give them up if they choose to go up and grow into their potential. So we have 9 truths or 9 things that we could consider in the law of trade-offs. Okay? Number 1, trade-offs are available to us throughout life. They're always available to us. Everybody makes trades throughout their life, whether they know it or they don't. The question is whether you are going to make good ones or bad ones. So in general, unsuccessful people make bad trade-offs. Average people make few trade-offs. And successful people make really good trade-offs. And that's just in general. So trade-offs are available all the way throughout your life. Number 2, we must learn to see trade-offs as opportunities to grow. And when you do that, you need to ask yourself 2 questions. Number 1, what are the pluses and the minuses of the trade-off? In other words, what are the pros and the cons of this trade-off? Okay? It helps you to look at something without being afraid of it. If you can assess the pros and the cons, the pluses and the minuses. The second question you need to ask yourself, okay, is will I go through this change or will I actually grow through this change? Will I go through this change or will I grow through this change? So good trade-offs are not something to just be endured. All right? It really reflects that you have a passive mindset if you're just enduring something, and that's just going through a change. But you want to grow through the change. Okay? So don't just go into a change and say, well, I hope it turns out right. You can't do that. You have to try and you have to make a decision to become better as a result of your change. Dennis Waitley, who is an author, says, a sign of wisdom and maturity is when you come to terms with the realization that your decisions cause you rewards and consequences. All of your decisions cause you rewards and consequences. So you're responsible for your own life, and your ultimate success depends on choices that you make. I'm going to talk to you about one of my choices later on when we go into the break. Why? Because I don't know if I want it recorded. And this is going to be a trade-off in a way. It is. It's a trade-off. Because if I want to move up, I'm going to have to give up something. More than just something. Number 3, trade-offs force us to make difficult personal changes. And this is the truth. You have to make a difficult personal change. In a lot of cases, like for example, in my particular case, I'm going to have to be willing to face a lot of fear. So when you want to do something that you want something that you've never had, then you must do something that you've never done to get it. And that's what I'm getting ready to do. I'm going to do something that I've really never done. Otherwise, you just keep getting the same old stuff, the same old results. And you know what? I'm tired of the same old results. And it is my fault. There's no other way to dice it or slice it. Changes to our lives always begin with changes that we are willing to make personally. What are we willing to do personally? Change is personal. It takes you to do the changing. It's possible. Everybody absolutely has the capability or the possibility to change. And change is profitable, meaning that you're going to be rewarded substantially. Okay? So John Maxwell decided that when he decided to write books and become an author, that's when everything changed for him. And that was his trade-off. He had never written a book. He was afraid. And he decided, I'm going to become an author. And because of that decision, he now has helped millions of people all over the world. And according to him, it started as a result of becoming an author. He never would have even sold one book. Okay? He's written more than 70 books that have sold more than 21 million copies. And he never would have helped the millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of people and become who he is today had he not made that pivotal trade-off decision to become an author. What a huge decision that was. Okay, number 4, the loss of a trade-off is usually felt long before the gain. You're going to lose first. You're not going to get the reward until you felt some loss for quite a while, okay? You're going to have to go through the pain of loss. Hang on. Going to cough again. Okay, so you want the change. You want that result. But what you first become acutely aware of is the pain and the loss, because you feel that immediately when you do the trade-off. You feel it immediately. And you don't reap the rewards and the benefits of your trade-off, sometimes weeks, days, months, years into it. Hopefully not years. For Herman Cain, it was 4 years it took him to get to the place he needed to go. Number 5, most trade-offs can be made at any time. You can do them anytime. For me, this could have happened a year ago, and I would be a jewel right now. I'm convinced of it. I could have made the decision to make this change a year ago, and I would definitely be, maybe halfway to Sapphire right now. I don't know. But I can guarantee you I'd be a lot farther along than I am right now. Okay, so Karl Barth expresses the power of making good choices after bad ones. Though no one can go back and make a brand new start, my friend, anyone can start from now and make a brand new ending. So that's definitely me. I can't go back and do it differently. But I can definitely start now and start doing something different now to change the trajectory of my business. And that's with you all, every single one of you. You can make the change to start doing something differently. Number 6, a few trade-offs come only once in your life. Andy Grove, a former chairman and CEO of Intel, observed, there's at least one point in the history of any company that when you have to change dramatically to rise to the next performance level, and if you miss that moment, your company starts to decline. That's a huge statement. In the growth of a company, in the rise, you have this one opportunity to make a change, to rise to the next level. And if you don't do that at the right time, you go backwards. Thank God that's not us in network marketing, right? Thank God. We can always make the change to move forward and to change everything at the moment's notice. The higher you climb, this is number 7, the higher you climb, the tougher the trade-offs get. So new level, new devil. You're at a new level of success, then you're going to have to make tougher trade-offs when you get to that newer level. Henry Kissinger says, each success only buys an admission ticket to a more difficult problem. One of the dangers of success, yep, can also make a person unteachable. That's not me. I'm always teachable. But sometimes people are tempted to use their success as permission to discontinue their own growth. I haven't gotten that high yet. I can't imagine I'll ever get that successful that I'm going to think that I've made it. I don't know any jewel that would say that. Even the people at the very tippity top that have 20 or 30 years in the industry, no one would say that they know everything and they just sit back, They might make the mistake of sitting back, but they don't say that they know everything and that they don't need to just not grow anymore. So the people can become convinced that they know enough to succeed, and then they start coasting. And then what happens is you start declining. You don't ever coast. You're either going up or you're going down. You make this huge mistake to think that you're just gonna, when you stop doing this, that you're just gonna just hang out right here. That doesn't happen. You actually lose ground. So no matter how successful you've been up to this point, you can never stand pat. You want to keep growing and learning, and you need to keep making your trade-offs, or else you're going to pay a price. Those trade-offs will definitely cost you. Henry David Thoreau says the price of anything is the amount of life that you exchange for it. You're going to have to give something up in your life in order to go to a higher place in your life. Number 8, there's 2 more in this section here. Number 8, trade-offs never leave us the same. Don't fear the failure so much that you refuse to try new things, says Lewis Boone. Every time we make a choice, our choice has the power over us. The choice has power over us, okay? It changes us. It's going to make us a better person. Even the bad choices can ultimately help us to change for the good. The choice I'm making right now that has been a process for me, it's going to make me way better. But am I going to face some pain going through it? Let me tell you. Number 9, what are you not willing to trade off? There's got to be some things that you're not willing to trade off that are never worth the price, ever. Like, for example, your marriage, your integrity, your values, those aren't worth trading off for me. Think about the story of Jacob and Esau in the Bible. Jacob was the second born. Esau was the firstborn. And Esau was the strong one that worked out in the fields. And he came in one day and saw Jacob, their mother, I think it was Rebecca, was preparing the stew. And Jacob was so envious that Esau was getting the birthright. And he knew how hungry his brother was. And he offered him a pot of stew, or a big, massive bowl of stew. And he said, I'll give you something to eat to, stave off your hunger if you will give me your birthright. And without a thought, because of his hunger, he didn't even think about it. And he traded off his entire inheritance and birthright for a bowl of stew, a ginormous bowl of stew. I mean, think about that. And then as of history later, there are massive consequences because of that one pivotal decision made by Esau. Okay? Devastating trades. Okay? A lot of people, most people who make these types of devastating trades don't even realize it until after it's too late. It's too late. You can't do anything about it now. So you need some systems. You need some systems and some choices that are in place to keep you on track. What systems do you have on track? For example, if you plan on staying healthy and working out, you're going to write your workouts and schedule them in your calendar. Otherwise, your calendar will rule you and you won't get to the gym. He uses the example of his private secretary, John Maxwell's secretary, keeps him from working too much by managing his calendar. She won't let him overwork himself, because he will. And he also has a personal rule to never be alone in a room with a woman outside of the family. The family is the only type of people that he would ever allow that. So that's a very, very great system and choice to have in place to protect himself, because those trade-offs are not worth making. So there are 5 trade-offs that are actually worth making. 5 of them. What are they? Ask yourself, are you willing to give up, number 1, are you willing to give up financial security today for potential tomorrow? Okay, willing to give up financial security today for potential tomorrow, like Herman Cain gave up his financial security at that time to have future potential later down in the future. Okay, John Maxwell says he was always willing to make a pay cut when changing jobs because he valued the opportunity over security, like Herman Cain. Kevin Turner, the COO of Microsoft, says the only job security that we have is ourselves, our actual selves, individual commitment to personal development. So that's the only job security that we have, is if we choose to develop ourselves personally. And I can actually say that the choice that I'm making right now in my personal business is to develop myself and form a habit and develop a skill that I have never, I should say, I was afraid to develop. I have found a way to not have to do it. And I'm going to develop that skill. So it's going to definitely grow me. And there's going to be, like I said, a lot of failure involved. And so as a result, I'm going to be a better person. I'm going to grow. Number 2, are you willing to give up immediate gratification for personal growth? Instant gratification and personal growth are simply incompatible. Darren Hardy, which is one of the greatest authors ever regarding personal growth and business building, talks about in the compound effect, the battle that people go through. There's an actual internal battle that people experience when it comes to weighing their instant gratification with whatever it's best for them to do, that they sit there and end up, instead of sit there reading or watching 3 hours of NCIS and Dancing with the Stars. We are a rational species, but yet we get into the groove of doing something so mundane, and it becomes a habit. And it's because of a need of immediate, instant gratification. It Sitting down and zoning out in front of a TV instantly gratifies our need to be entertained. And entertainment, if you talk to any amazing developed leader, a person who is highly entertained is a person who is not highly successful. A person who is highly entertained is not a person who is highly successful and developed to their full potential. There's all sorts of options for entertaining yourself. I once had a friend who complained about never having enough money to do some of the things that she and her husband wanted to do. Yet every Friday night, they were out at a dinner and a movie. Highly entertained. Instant gratification. And I never could understand, and sometimes they'd do double features and go get something to eat. Highly entertained. Let's just sit in front of a screen. Not that I don't enjoy movies. I love them. But people that are highly entertained are not moving to their full potential. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with movies, because there's not. So we can choose to please ourselves and plateau where we're at, or we can delay our gratification and grow. Number 3, are you willing to give up the fast life for the good life? Albert Schweitzer, who was a missionary, said the secret of great success is to go through life as a man who never gets used up. Never gets used up. What that means is, if you're never being used up, you have greater capacity, which leads to more margin in your life. So what are the steps to create more capacity that leads to margin? Delegate so that you're working smarter, not harder. Do what you do best and drop all the rest of the stuff, because you don't have enough time to do everything well. Get control of your calendar, or it's going to control you, or somebody else will control your calendar. Do what you love, because it will give you more energy, and work with the people that you love and that you like, so that your energy is not depleted. You've got to create more capacity for yourself. Don't work with people you don't like. Don't sit around and not manage your calendar. Get control of your life. Do the things that you do best, and stop trying to do it all. Because you can't do it all. You just simply can't. You're going to exhaust yourself, and you won't have anything to give to the things that you do well. Number 4, are you willing to give up some security for some significance? Significance means meaning in your life. You'll never get anywhere interesting by always doing the same thing, the safe thing, should I say. Most people are capable of making a living. Almost everybody is capable of making a living, That's the safe area of life. It's just going and back and forth to a job, making a living, earning money to pay for the food that goes on your table. The significant thing is to make a difference, though. To make a difference. The job that I had as a teacher allowed me to make a difference and paid the bills. But it certainly didn't allow me to develop into my greatest form of potential. There was a ceiling over my head. The great men and women of history were not great because of what they earned or what they owned, but for rather what they gave their lives up to accomplish. Okay? Number 5, are you willing to give up addition for multiplication? If you study the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership, there is a law of addition and there's a law of multiplication. But basically, the law of addition is adding value to other people, right? That's what his law of addition is. But addition is talking about, as opposed to multiplication, the chapter in the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership talks about the law of explosive growth. The law of explosive growth in your business is as a result of multiplication happening in your business. And how do you multiply in your business is you create and bring up leaders in your business. When you are only adding followers then you're growing. But if you bring up leaders, then you multiply. So you have to do, instead of just adding, you're going to have to figure out a way to multiply. You're going to have to give up addition to multiply. That's what he says. You're going to trade off addition for multiplication. Explore developing your own leadership potential. If you learn how to lead, you're going to increase the impact that you make on your life. The investment that you make in others will have a multiplying effect. It will multiply. And you will not regret the time that you give. And I will say this, most people, this is the last thing that he says about this, try to take too many things with them on their journey throughout their life. They want to keep adding things without giving up anything as they add it. You know, have you ever heard about when you buy some new clothes and you bring them home, you need to get rid of some things instead of just continually adding things to your closet. You're going to have so many things in there that you won't be able to keep track of it all, right? And it is known that we only wear 20% of what's in our closet in the first place. Boy, isn't that the truth? Now that I've gotten out of teaching, isn't that the truth? Sometimes the same thing 2 days in a row. You can't do everything. You can't just keep adding, okay? There is only so much time in a day, and at some point you reach your limit. Besides that, we need to always remember that if nothing changes, nothing changes. So we've got to change something in order to have a change take effect. We can't just keep doing the same things, guys, if we want to change our business and the trajectory of our business. Okay? And I'm going to talk to you about the change I'm making. I'm willing to share that with you because I am a project. I'm growing. I'm a work in progress. And my whole business is a big work in progress, and as well as yours, I'm sure. And, you know, we don't all know everything. And it's amazing. Now that I've decided to make the change that I'm making in my own personal business, I'm watching more videos that deal with this topic than ever before. And I'm learning things that I thought I already knew, but I really didn't. And as I have spoken with mentors this past week, and I'm going to speak with a mentor next week, oh my word, I feel like, you know, I was comfortable. I was comfortable in managing my team. I'm just going to be honest with you. I was comfortable, and I will always be with my team. I love my team, and I will pour into my team and Zoom with my team and help my team and love you guys. You mean everything to me, right? I mean, you're my family. You're not just my friends. You feel like my sisters and my brothers to me. But I will tell you, I have neglected my personal business, and I am going to pour into that like never before, and be devoted to that, and especially doing some of the things that I've taught but have never really fully developed in myself. It's crazy. I could stand in front of my students as a teacher and just confidently deliver almost like a sermon about a concept, and I had never done that before. I was a master at teaching it. Now, I obviously am successful enough to reach this level, so I've had to do a whole lot of things in order to get here. But there are some things I've never done consistently, and I am determined to do those things consistently now and become a master at that. I even have daily affirmations in those same lines. They're goals for the year, and then I have that are specific, that are involving those specific skills that I'm trying to hone in on. And then there are affirmations that I'm saying 5 to 10 times a day because my mind is being reprogrammed now. I'm reprogramming my mind so that I will now fall into that habit. And is it going to hurt? Yes. Is it going to feel painful? Yes. Is it going to feel unnatural? Yes. Is it not going to be a habit for a while? Yes. It's going to, and I'm going to have to keep going in that role. Otherwise, I'm not going to get to the place that I want in my own personal business. So I didn't get specific with you here, but you have to define, I'm over on page 191 where the homework is, applying the law of the trade-offs to your life. What exactly are you willing? What number 2 is actually, what are you not willing to trade? Like, you've got to figure out, what are you not willing to trade? And when you write those things down, these are things you're not willing to give up. When you write those things down, these are like the non-negotiable things in your life. And for each one of these, you need to identify the greatest threat, potential threat, that could happen against that thing that you're not willing to trade. Okay? And it's kind of hard for me to identify. Like John Maxwell said, his marriage was not up for trade-off. He was not going to put his marriage up for trade-off. So that's why he made a system or a choice in place where he was not going to be alone with a woman in a room that was not a family member. And so the potential, the greatest threat that could potentially damage his marriage would be to be alone in a room with a woman that was not in his family. So he made that system, and he said he was not willing to trade off his marriage. So he put a system in place. So that's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to define some of the things you're not willing to trade off. But what trades do you need to make right now that you've been unwilling to trade? What are some trade-offs that you're going to have to start making now that you've been unwilling to make? And I can name them, and I will. I'll get off on here and I'll tell you my own trade-off. And I expect you guys to, hopefully you're thinking about yours right now too. What is the next thing you need to trade for? And what must you give up to get it? Those are the questions I would love to have you answer on the discussion as we get off on this. Thank you all for joining us. And I hope that you learned about John Maxwell's law of trade-offs. Next week, chapter 12, the law of curiosity. Growth is stimulated by asking why. Asking why. Okay.